seems to be different than many other institutions that they know of. I always respond by saying that, in a sense, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And this institution knows where it's been, and it knows its roots, and the spirit that goes with them for many, many years.
Good evening. Despite the sunshine, it is actually evening out there. Welcome to the 17th annual last lecture, which is your last lecture. My name is Shannon Thibodeau. I work here on campus in the Department of Student Life, and I'm really glad to be able to welcome you this evening. To begin, I would like to acknowledge the territory that we're on. The main campus of the University of Guelph resides on the ancestral lands of the Attawandaron people and the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We recognize here the significance of the Dish with One Spoon covenant to this land and offer our respect to our Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Métis neighbors as we strive to strengthen our relationships with them. Today, this gathering place, this campus, is home to many people, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging them reminds us of our important connection to this land where we get to learn and work together. It's in that spirit that I'm glad that we're here together. So welcome to the students, faculty, senior admin, staff, friends, family, community members, and alum who've gathered today. For those watching from the uoguelph.ca home feed, which is up there in that corner, you can wave hi. So if you've got friends from afar, family that want to join in, you can send them a little link, and they can watch along with you. Tonight, though, the reason why we're here is because of you. Because you're graduating. Yay! We love a reason to celebrate, so thanks for giving us one. To really get the ball rolling tonight, I'd like to welcome somebody who's been here for a little while, helping to create kind of the magic that makes Guelph Guelph, and has been part of your experience, whether you've known it or not, the entire time you've been here. And that's our Associate Vice President, Student Affairs, Brenda Whiteside.
Thanks. So I just learned something, all the faculty in the audience tonight. If you want to increase your course evaluations, just show puppies a couple times, and you guys I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight to our last lecture, and I'm particularly excited that I get to do this tonight and bring greetings on behalf of the administration, because this is my last lecture as well. Some of you know, after 35 years working here and 40 years here since I've been a student, I too am transitioning to the next phase of my life because I'm retiring. And I hold the same emotions that I think you hold. Some pride that, you know, I've achieved what I've achieved, some excitement, and yes, some fear, and some desires that people would stop asking me what I'm gonna do next. Some people say to me, why the last lecture? And you know, I reflect on why we introduced this, and we look at Convocation. I really hope you come to Convocation because it's an amazing event in June. But Convocation is a time when you're surrounded by your family and you see some friends, but it's a very busy time, and some of your friends don't graduate with you because you graduate with your class, and a lot of your friends may not be in your program. And so it's a time when you don't really get to see everyone. This is your opportunity to come together, all the graduating students, to have an opportunity to reflect on what you've done, where you've been, to celebrate, to tell some stories, and to have a last recognition. And thanks to the CSA, you've also had an opportunity to have I'm not going to say the last glass of champagne, because I still have champagne, but to toast your celebration, so thank you. So I was reflecting when we met at the President's Welcome, probably 3, 4, or 5 years ago, depending upon your journey. We celebrated your arrival and entrance to the university community. And at that time, admission to the university was a big accomplishment for you. At the welcome ceremony, we stressed that you were not entering a university but a community, and encouraged you to take advantage of all the community had to offer. We urged you to get involved, to engage in your education both inside and outside of the classroom. We told you that your years here would be ones of significant growth, and we encouraged you to push yourselves to maximize that growth, intellectually and personally. Tonight we meet again to celebrate the end of this phase of your education. And completing a university degree is a significant achievement, and you should be extremely proud of your accomplishments. I know that all of us sharing this event with you here tonight, faculty, staff, and your fellow students, are very proud of you. While each of you may have had a different experience during these last years, I'm fairly confident that all of you have grown probably in more ways than you had anticipated when you started. And by grown, I don't just mean like your weight from our food. I mean grown, right? For me, I came in expecting to complete a science degree. I fell in love with economics in my first semester, and I completed my undergrad in business and my grad in economics. I expected to become an economist in the banking industry, but I ended up in student affairs. I mean, go figure, none of that connects together. But I think that's the beauty of a university education, is that the road can be different for everyone and it can change, but it is so exciting and enriching. And as you continue on your lifelong path, I know you will have many occasions to reflect back on these years and the impact your educational experiences at Guelph has had on you. And as you pursue your various careers, I hope you will recognize the important skills, knowledge, and values your education at Guelph has provided you. And as time elapses and smooths over your memories, I can assure you, you will probably best remember the good times, and some of those tough times will slowly fade away, and you'll be stronger for those challenges you encountered. And as I reflect on your beginning here, I'm struck by how our message to you tonight, as graduating students, parallels that of entering students. As you enter the next phase of your life, I encourage you to be engaged, to be present, continue to evolve both intellectually and personally. I still learn something almost every day, and often from you, the students. Education is a lifelong endeavor. Take advantage of all the opportunities to continue to learn, both formally and informally. Follow in the Guelph tradition and engage in your community. Step up and be present. And vote. And vote. Okay, in the next election. While I will soon be entering the next phase of my life, I know that I'm going to be staying connected to this place. It is my Griffin family and my Griffin home, and I hope your connection will continue with us as well. The Guelph community is comprised of faculty, staff, students, and alumni, and you are still going to be alumni and be part of that family. We value and rely on our alumni to play a strong role in the life of this university. I hope you will continue in this great tradition. Come back to visit us often. Offer to be a guest speaker, mentor a student, or serve in your college alumni association. Tomorrow, hopefully, alumni will start to tweet encouragements about exams. I hope that you too will tweet the next cohort of students as they study for their exams. Stay in touch with the friends you've made here. I can assure you they will stay with you for the rest of your life. And I dare say stay in touch with your faculty, staff, and even the odd senior administrator. You will always be a member of our community. In closing, I'd like to thank our speakers tonight, Aiden, Kim, and Matt. You've each been selected for your passion and commitment to this school, and we are honored to have you here. And I would also like to thank you, I would also like you to join me in thanking those responsible for making this happen, from the selection committee who picked our speakers, to the planning committee who do the preparations, and to hospitality services who will provide you with your last free meal. Best of luck. Best of luck in the future.
Thanks, Brenda. So Brenda did mention that there is a free meal. And so the trick is you have to make it to the end, and then you get the food. So there's a bit of a reward that comes from sticking it out until the end. So over the last 4, 5, 6, whatever, however many years it's been, that's gotten to this place of being the class of 2018. We know there's been some free meals along the way, and there's also been lots of different opportunities to hear people speak. And so tonight I'm going to explain to you how this evening works, because it does differ a little bit from your average lecture. I'm also going to ask if it's possible for someone to close those curtains a little bit so that the lecturers aren't blinded by the bright sun. Thanks. Just the middle, that one that Dina has. Thank you, Dina. Go team. It's really bright, and I kind of want to see your faces. So the program for the evening is actually quite straightforward. You're going to hear from 3 different members of our Griffin community, and they're speaking on the theme of reflect, celebrate, and be inspired. The first address will be from a classmate of yours who is also in those final days of his degree. Another is by a member of our stellar faculty who some of you voted and selected. And finally, we're going to have an address from a special member of our alumni family. And afterwards, if you don't have a 7 p.m. class to run off to one more time, there is some free food down in the basement. So let's get started. Every year, graduating students are invited to apply and compete to be the student last lecturer. And a committee of staff, faculty, and of course, graduating students comes together to make that selection. It's never really easy because a lot of you are really awesome. And so the decision is always tough, but everyone always feels really good about it. And the same thing happened this year. We had a bunch of great students apply, and we've selected one that we really feel exemplifies a lot of the qualities that many of you do. They're passionate, they're really caring, quite determined in what they do. They're respectful and authentic in their journey about learning about themselves and learning about the world around them. What's interesting about this student for me is it's the first student lecturer I've worked with in the past decade who actually made it through their undergrad without changing their major once. Which made him a little bit exceptional because that just has never happened to me before. Outside of the classes this student's taking to earn their history degree that he's this close to getting in a few days, he's been involved with a number of organizations across campus, including Interhall Council and the CSA. He's currently the captain of the College of Arts Student Union and has also managed to answer the question that people have been asking Brenda and most of you. What are you doing next year? His answer? He will be representing students here at the University of Guelph as the Vice President Student Experience with the CSA. I'm really pleased to welcome and ask you to help me in welcoming your student last lecturer, Aiden Paskinov.
Hi everyone, my name is Aiden Paskinov and I'm your student presenter for the graduating class of 2018. To start, I just want to say thank you very much for honoring me to be able to present today. I also want to recognize the other amazing people that could have been up here instead of me, and I will try to do them and all of you justice. It works, okay. So when I first looked at material for the University of Guelph, I saw photos of this beautiful building plastered on everything. And that was what Guelph was, the place with the amazing campus where it was somehow always fall. This idea of a perfect university. And when I came to Guelph, I found out I was going to be living here. In this other beautiful cement block. I was a little let down because I can remember touring Guelph. I had seen everything that was in that material, but I still wanted to go see all of my choices. But I remember after that tour, I turned to my parents and I said we didn't need to go anywhere else. I had made up my mind. Guelph has that small town charm that hooked me the moment I set foot on here. So we did tour south, but who really expects to get put there? I was so sure I would get Johnston and all of my dreams would come true. They didn't, because like I said, cement block. That whole first year, I felt a little lost. Like physically, I did get lost in South a few times. But I was also not living where I expected. And on top of that, I was in a tower full of engineers. And as Shannon mentioned, I'm in history. So you can imagine I didn't really feel at home. It's kind of hard to connect with people you don't share any classes or experiences with. So that's what my first year was. I met some people, made a few friends, but nothing really seemed to click. I even contemplated changing my major a few times, but I never quite could, because I knew I had one thing going right for me, even though nothing else was. I was still trying to make those university memories that are supposed to last you a lifetime. The ones you look back on in your old age, but somehow university wasn't really feeling like my glory days. I remember leaving residence, going to live off campus, thinking it would all change, but it didn't. I just felt like I was drifting through in a haze. I got bogged down comparing myself to this image I had conjured in my head, this image that was perfect in every way. It was popular, involved, it meant getting good grades and making lifelong friendships. It wasn't until third year that I realized I'd been doing it all wrong. Sorry. I was setting myself up for failure by placing these expectations on myself. And it wasn't some big life-changing moment that made me realize this. I just remember one night being surrounded by this amazing group of close friends and feeling completely at ease. I had made these connections without really trying because I had stopped overthinking it. I realized I didn't need to change who I was if I was going to fit in. And that's what made me get to the moment I am today. It's the moment where I realized I need to look at things the way they are. And this is what was going through my head as I tried to write this speech. I was thinking about my time at Guelph and that experience and how it's shaped me and changed me. These memories are what made me realize what I wanted to talk about. So there are two types of these speeches, both of which I'm sure you've heard before. There's the ones we look back on and get all nostalgic, the ones that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, but they also make you panic a little. You realize you don't really want anything to end, but the truth is it has to, otherwise you can't move on. Then there are the other speeches, the ones that look forward with optimism, telling us to seize our future and that tomorrow is ours. While they might have a point, the future isn't what makes us who we are. If anything, getting too caught up in it makes us someone we aren't. And that's the problem with these speeches. If we look back too much, we end up stumbling when we finally try to move forward. We never changed and we aren't ready for what's next. Or we look too far ahead and realize we never left anything behind because we were too eager to get where we're going. The past is something we cling to but can never recreate. It's over, but that doesn't mean it's gone. It's inside of us every day, making us who we are. We learn from it constantly. On the other hand, our future is this mythical time we reach for and talk about. It's fine to look ahead, but don't base everything off your expectations, because when they aren't met, you won't enjoy the moment. We need to realize we never actually meet these standards because tomorrow never comes, it's only ever today. So I could stand up here and try to relate to you all. I could talk about the excessive amount of time I spent at Aggie Pub in first year. I realize it looks a lot different during the day. Or recount all the times I never won at trivia. Or those papers I stayed up late to write and never ended up writing. But what if you never went to trivia? Instead you went to karaoke downtown. Or what if you never went downtown? That's fine. We've all had our own amazing, unique experiences at Guelph, and no one can take that away from us. I can't even begin to try and sum up all of our experiences. It's an impossible task. Instead, I'm going to talk about the one shared experience we do have, this school and this campus. This environment has molded us and shaped us into the amazing and unique people we are today. Being a student here has given us these experiences. It gives us context to who we are and who we want to be. So our past is important. It's a place for reflection and growth, but it's not everything. So then what about the future? That distant possibility that's summed up by the question I'm sure we've all been asked, what's next for you? A question that is so deeply ingrained in all of us that we were trying to find the answer before we even set foot on this campus. But the answer is simple. It's tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Because we'll never find the answer if we only get asked the question. We have to go find it ourselves. If we let ourselves or others try to predict our futures, we might get put on the wrong path, or we might miss other opportunities along the way. We've been trained to look forward to the next assignment, the next final, the next paper, but when it's over, all we have is a bunch of numbers and not much else. Although you do get a degree. So don't get lost in what's next. Be present for the little moments because they build into the big ones. They're what makes our journey worthwhile. All those assignments, all that hard work, built towards our graduation. So sometimes you're going to get a South instead of a Johnson. Your expectations may not line up with your reality, but that's okay. What I'm trying to say is that our expectations can lack the context of our experiences. South may not have been what I expected, but it ended up being oddly amazing for me because it gave me that context for who I am today, although I didn't realize it at the time. So all I ask is that at some point after you leave here, you stop and really think about your journey through these last few years. Think about where you came from, the friends you may have lost or gained along the way. Think about your worst classes and your best. Think about these infinite variations and how they have all led you to this day, sitting here right now, getting ready to graduate. In writing and rewriting this speech, and rewriting it again, I kept thinking about the past, the present, and future as three separate pieces, and I couldn't have been more wrong. They are all important, but it's when they come together that really matters, because each of us is a combination of our past, present, and future, the experiences we've had and those still to come. These past few years were important. We made friends and did a lot of great things. We'll also make new friends and have so much more of our lives to live. Every single one of us will take away something different from our time here, and we'll each go on to do something unique and remarkable with what we've learned. So be present. Enjoy the little moments while you still can. In the immortal words of Ferris Bueller, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you can miss it. Thank you very much.
Part of what made me really happy about that is that you all still know who Ferris Bueller is. So I feel one with all of you. Aiden, very well done. Thank you. Thank you. Now it means that our faculty is up, which is always a bit daunting because we ask them to stick to a time limit that's really different than their normal time limit in class. But before we allow our amazing faculty member to come up, I just wanted to share with you some of the other people that were involved in that process. So as you may recall, you received an email a while ago to vote on a top 10 list, and that was generated from a previous survey that had been done. And so while we have one faculty member coming up on stage, I did want to acknowledge the other 9 who made that top 10, representing 4 of our 7 colleges. So I'm going to read out their names and their departments. So Dr. Jana Benkei-Cook from Sociology and Anthropology, Dr. Lauren Bennett from Geography, Dr. Stefan Grather from Molecular and Cellular Biology, Dr. Tuli Kukkonen from Family Relations and Applied Nutrition, Dr. Glenn Pyle from Biomedical Sciences, Dr. Joanne O'Mara from Physics, Dr. Ian Spears, a last lecturer in 2010 from Poli-Sci, last year's last lecturer, Dr. John Walsh, and a 2-time last lecturer in 2011 and 2016, Dr. Martin Williams from Physics. So congratulations to all of them. We've got some pretty stellar faculty here. So we've been doing the last lecture since 2002, and in 2009 was the first time that we actually asked the graduating class to vote on the faculty lecturer. And the person that they chose was a math prof at the time who's since retired named Jack Weiner. Now, yeah, hi Jack. Hi, I didn't see you back there. Welcome. So, in people's comments about Jack, what they really recalled was having him in first year. and some of the things that he did in his teaching about math, which, let's be honest, is not really everyone's favorite subject, that were really inspiring to them. And so it's really cool for me, because 2009 was my first last lecture as a staff member here, is that this year's faculty last lecturer actually became a math major because of his first year class with Jack Weiner. And this year's, I know, isn't it sweet? It's like impact, people. This is our community, and it makes me happy. So this year's lecturer is a multi-award winning faculty member in the Department of Math and Stats. And being in that department does mean that he teaches folks from all across campus in a variety of academic areas. So not just math students, but Eng and Econ and BCom and a whole bunch of others. The comments about this faculty member made it clear that his classes are challenging, but that they're also fun and memorable. And for many students who commented, said they were their best class, and some of them were specific to say, not just their best math class. The love and enthusiasm that came through in the comments made it clear that this person has some pretty deep impact on many. And we heard repeatedly in those comments that he creates amazing learning experiences, that his classes are interactive and fun. And I was like, wow, why was he teaching math when I was a student? We also heard that he is an awesome prof who can make math interesting for someone who wasn't very interested in math. And he's also most definitively one of the greatest professors I've ever had. As a Guelph grad a few times himself, he has his own stories of his time as a student on campus, and students said they love those. They also love his nerdy jokes. And a few hoped he would pick something weird to talk about. I don't really know what that means, but I think it's probably time that we find out. So it's really a pleasure to invite to the stage this year's faculty last lecturer, Dr. Matt Deniers.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you very much. You know, I know many people in this room already. I have had the chance to teach so many people in here. People that have had me before, oh man, hey. So for those of you who I don't know, I'm gonna introduce myself to you the same way that I introduced myself to them back in first year calculus. Hey, my name's Matt, and that's what you should, hey Max, how you doing? Yeah, I'm very honored and so pleased to be the last lecturer for 2018. I have been here now for the past 16 years. And so I'm also presenting to you today as an alumnus of the University of Guelph, which is an institution that I call home, a place where I've met so many wonderful friends, and that I've had so many different experiences. I was sitting where you are now, what feels like not so long ago. I remember well attending the last lecture, as was just mentioned a little bit ago, by my own calculus professor, Jack Weiner. Where is he again? Hey, Jack. Who is a remarkable person who has had a very large positive impact upon my life. And I'll share a little bit about that with you in a few minutes. It is especially meaningful to me now to stand in front of some of my own students and friends and loved ones to share some thoughts and words today. You know, I kind of joked that on a day-to-day basis, I do a lot of talking about math, and I've taught so many people, and it's very easy to stand in front and talk about differential equations and optimization problems or whatever might be the subject of the day and feel right at home. And as soon as you're called to like talk about words and life and stuff in front of people, it's different, you know? So I've been, anyway, the life of a prof during the school year can be positively crazy. The semester has been a whirlwind. So many great things have happened, and so many of these things I never would have predicted coming in, right? Like, you don't realize what things might be involved as a professor. This semester, I've had the pleasure of supervising 2 wonderful senior students pursuing some cool projects. I don't know if either of them are here today, but that's been a lot of fun. I was part of the 2nd place Fun League intramural Frisbee team. Go Thunder! I've had a fantastic time getting to know my first year students a little bit better. I got to act as an expert on the mathematics behind the mantis shrimp. Is Christine here? Anyway, yeah, I just do random things. I don't know. You just wonder who's here. And hey, I even totally destroyed the competition in the NG Queers Rainbow Road Mario Kart tournament that happened about a month ago. Like, it was pretty bad. Anyway. On the other hand, being a prof can be really stressful too. Just 2 weeks ago, I was particularly on the edge, and I just told myself that I would start saying no to new things because I had so many things in the go, and you're always getting requests and so on. Literally the next day after I did this, and David was there, my husband, and we had this conversation, I got the phone call, and it was about this last lecture, and it was the offer to have this opportunity. So naturally, I immediately broke my promise, said, yes, I'll do it. I'm really glad I did. But I admit that at first, I was worried about what I should talk about, saying something inspirational, something silly, something weird, I don't know, something instructive. I just dropped my pen. That's like a tradition for my classes too. Oh, and I know I dropped something else. Happened accidentally, not sure what oh, it's the pointer, I'll just put it here. All right. I don't need it, so it doesn't matter to me. Okay. Oh, there goes another pen. That totally accidental, I swear that's not, Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, I was really worried about all of this, but this was the thing that was racing through my mind as I had 1,000 other things to deal with. I had a test in calculus to prepare for, or a test 2 for any of my first years that are here and have it out for me for that. I don't know. I had to make it up, deliver it, grade it, have extra office hours ahead of that. I had 2 special committee meetings that week. I had to figure out the latest clever ideas from my 4th year project students. I had to come up with another episode of the Wednesday Math Challenge. I had to rehearse for and appear as the Laplace Master in an engine grease engineering musical. Eat some Cheetos. Anyway, of course, all of this was being juggled with my usual lectures and labs, my meetings and mountains of student email. I wasn't sleeping well, and I felt like I was about to lose my mind, as anybody who talked to me that weekend knows. But right at the climax of all of that chaos, my grandmother, who had been suddenly turned very ill, she passed away. It's funny how things like that really put things in perspective. Taking some very abrupt time out and spending a week with the family that I love and sharing many nostalgic memories, I came to recognize that the day-to-day angst and the stress, and moreover, any worries about putting together this lecture were all very insignificant. And it immediately became clear that all I should do is speak from the heart and everything would be fine. Truly, surviving the unpredictable and having to lean on many of my friends and colleagues, thanks Kim, brought my brain back to a thought I've had so often in recent years, and I realized that I just had to talk about it here. Nobody, no matter how put together, or successful, or organized, or knowledgeable, or confident they seem to be, knows exactly what they're doing in life. Those crazy couple of weeks were so intense and overwhelming for me. But everyone has had, and will have, their own times where they have no idea which end is up. The thought that so many successful people really just have no choice but to wing it on some level as they go along has come to give me great comfort. And the older I get, the more I recognize it to be true. I mean this in a more general sense as well. So thinking back, when I was 7 years old, I remember thinking and looking at people that were in high school, big kids, big scary kids, as being nothing but big and scary, cool and confident. And then when I got to high school, I was none of those things. But that's not where my mind was right now. Sort of like Aiden said, I was looking forward, right? And what I saw when I looked forward were university students. And those university students looked so mature, so independent, and so confident. And you know, you get to university, and again, you feel immediately like you're none of those things. But looking forward, right? Your first year, and you see senior students, and you see grad students, and you see TAs, and you look at them, and you think, gosh, they're impossibly tireless in their work. They're meticulous writers. They're avid coffee drinkers. And generally, they're very confident people. And then I became a grad student. And yeah, I started drinking coffee copiously. But otherwise, I was none of those things. And the chain continues. I saw profs as being immortal and godly and untouchably brilliant, amazing researchers and writers, and confident. And I'm still none of those things, or at least I don't feel that way. You know, to be honest, I'm still working on the next level. To this day, I have an inferiority complex to all of my amazingly accomplished tenured faculty member colleagues, and so that's something to work towards myself, because they, of course, must be incredibly confident in absolutely everything they do, right? At every step of this game of life, there's no instruction manual nor an FAQ to go to get tips from. No one has done this life thing before. Not anyone in this room. And so those who appear most confident have just got to be putting on some kind of a front, right? One thing we do have, however, we have each other to rely upon and to provide perspective and to share experience. In short, don't be afraid if you are afraid, because I am too. So we can bravely be afraid together. In this vein, over the past few years, I've had many students come to my office to ask questions or seek advice, and I'll try to lend some perspective where I can. I sometimes get asked, why are you such a good teacher? I hate this question. It reminds me so much of being in grade school. I remember very clearly those times when certain classmates used to ask me, sometimes to even tease me, nerdy math-loving Matt, the most awful and dreaded question, why are you so smart? Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't spend my classes picking my nose and wiping the results in the next seat up. It's so bad. Anyway, I think that a more productive thing for us to ask is not how any one professor, teacher, student, administrator, worker, anyone at all could be successful, because we are all successful in different ways, or we can be, but rather how we can all work together to make each other's experiences better, to have a positive impact, even a minor one, upon the lives of the people we meet and work with. In doing this, I believe that we are collectively successful. To help illustrate this, well, it's a lecture, and I hope I'm not going to go over time, but I was going to introduce one last math concept. So I made some notes. Math time. All right. So let's see if I can get these document cameras working. This is to be on, and light on. Look at that. So anyone in my classes will know immediately that this is pretty familiar. I do a fill-in-the-blank style for my first and second year classes, and so we're going to go through really quickly because I don't have that much time. Fractals and life, week 112, because that's about where you are probably. I don't know. Well, maybe a little bit more depending on some of you. Yeah, All right. So we have spent the last several years learning about some fundamental skills to help us, to steer us in the right direction in our respective degrees. We have learned some life lessons and some survival skills. Such as what? Give me a couple of examples of things that you've learned over your journey here. Procrastination? I'm not writing that down. Although, admittedly, there is something to be said about prioritizing. It happens to the best of us. So, yeah, productive procrastination. Prioritization, let's write that down. All right, anything else? Yes, Rocky. How to adult? I love it. This is completely true. That covers everything from making food beyond craft dinner to paying rent to not having to call your mom to do the laundry. Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. So these things have helped to transform us from who we are when we got here to where we are right now. In more recent years, there's been the opportunity for some more specific and direct applicable experiences. You've gotten to some of your senior courses that are more focused. It's been a journey. So lots of us in this room have come here to do different things in sciences or engineering, but many others have had to take math and stats courses beyond that on the side, perhaps begrudgingly. And so it seems only fitting, and excuse me if anybody in here is not a math person at all, but it's going to be light. one last topic in mathematics, and I'll freeze that side. Just kidding, won't do it. Just to make sure that, it's iconic, right? It's like the reality of working with a document camera. All right, cool. So fractals and self-similarity. This is a topic that I researched a little bit when I was doing my own master's degree, and it's something I've done with a couple of students as a project, so I felt like it was a good thing to talk about here for just a minute or two. There are particularly interesting mathematical objects called fractal sets. Okay, generally speaking, a fractal set is a set that contains infinitesimally tiny details. That's a big word, so I'm going to write it down. All right, with repetition that's found at and throughout various scales. It's very large, very small, everything in between. And when depicted graphically, these sets can be, anybody? What's that? That's exactly what it is, Max. Perfect. There are some examples. Major credit to my one of my fourth year project students last winter, who actually came up with a lot of these pictures as part of her project. So there are lots of ways to generate these sets. One particularly easy to grasp method involves coming up with a collection of rules and then repeatedly applying those rules, beginning with some kind of starting point. So let's do one quick example to see exactly what I mean. And we're going to start with something simple. And it is going to start with an equilateral triangle. Side length 1, and I'm going to pretend like the bottom left is at the origin, so at the point 0, 0. Okay? So we're going to do that, and I'm going to introduce 3 rules to govern the iterative process. It's a lecture. All right. All right, rule number 1. I want to shrink the triangle by a factor of 1/2, both vertically and horizontally. Okay, so multiply all of the values by 1/2. Okay, number 2. Shrink as in rule 1, but afterward I'm going to shift the result 1/2 a unit to the right. Okay, so just try to visualize this. I'm just shrinking, and then rule number 2 is shrinking and moving over. Rule number 3, shrink as in rule 1, but afterward shift the result 1/4 of a unit to the right, and root 3/4 units upward. And I want you to think about that, okay? And I want you to tell me, what is the action going to be of those 3 rules? Anybody? Be brave. I'm up here, for heaven's sakes. Yeah. More triangles. You're going to get more triangles. They're going to be small. Where are the triangles going to go? Ah, you can see them through. It's terrible. It's just like wearing a white shirt on a bad day. Anyway, okay. All right. All right. So now I've got to cover things up. Imagine if each rule were to be, I come prepared. If I apply those rules to the initial triangle, each rule acts to fit a shrunken version of the triangle into one of the 3 corners of the original. And that gives me, oh yeah, so when all of the rules are carried out and then depicted together, when we take the union of the 3 results, I get a picture that looks like this. For you to try. Practice that arithmetic. You can verify that those rules are good. Also, I play video games. So that's a thing. Okay. Alrighty. So here's the thing. I can keep repeating the rule. I can take that result and I can shrink that down. And if I follow those rules, it echoes through to the next generation, and I get more triangles that are smaller and smaller and smaller, more and more detailed. Okay? What happens if we take a limit? In some sense of this sequence of pictures, I'm interested in the limit as the number of iterations approaches infinity. So I don't want to iterate once, not twice, not 3 times, not 1,000,000 times, but many more times than that. I get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller triangles. That's a lot of pieces of Triforce. I get that. Okay? And this is a set known as the Sierpinski Triangle after a 20th century Polish mathematician. And it's really cool. And it's simply produced just by iterating a rule again and again and again. Okay? it's actually the case that you don't have to start with a triangle. You can start with anything. I have a talk that goes here, and after I do this little conversation, I bring up a piece of toast, and I iterate that again and again. Because if you take the toast and you shrink it down and you move it around, you get 3 pieces of toast. And then you get 9. And then you get 27, and you get toast in the design, right? An infinite amount of tiny toast. So, you know, the important thing is the rule. And that rule is what governs the final picture. And different sets of rules lead to different fractals. A slight change to any or all of the rules will echo throughout and completely change the final picture. I'm glad that these show up. So each one of these are different fractals. The top left and the bottom right are really well-known and famous fractals, and everything between are caused by changing the parameters that define those rules very slightly, and I get different pictures simply by changing the rule and then iterating. I get a different final picture. And this is kind of what I wanted to use to inspire my last words. So I need to find my notes. Oh, they're up there. I'm going to leave this here because they're pretty. All right. So let's put that there. Okay. I love this idea of applying this concept to life. I was worried initially that this analogy would be super cheesy, but then a friend told me that even if a lot of cheese can cause some gas, a little cheese is always a good thing. It's true. Anyway, I do believe that in life, small gestures tend to echo, for better or worse. We have all had the experience of being in a grouchy mood after a long day, and then coming home to say something we don't mean to a friend or a partner, in turn casting a shadow over their own day. Perhaps this leads to another iteration, where they take their frustrations on someone else, and the butterfly effect proliferates. This might seem like an insignificant or a stupid example, but you might be able to think of some other more major issues relating to how humans treat one another, historical or current, born of fear, hatred, resentment, or frustration, that have led to larger scale, impactful changes in policies or laws that might have a broader negative effect upon society on the whole. You might regard these kinds of things as some rules that led to an ugly fractal picture. More positively, though, on the other hand, is it possible that small positive gestures can echo through and result in a major positive impact? Jack Weiner, my calculus professor, put a little extra effort in his day-to-day life. He learned some student names. He answered email and held office hours in a way that was always supportive and encouraging. Some simple enthusiasm made his classes a delight to attend. I know that it wasn't a ton of extra work for him. He loved it. But his support, kindness, and those great lectures allowed his students, including myself, to really find joy in mathematics and teaching. Some small gestures, but a 19-year-old, Matt DeMars, changed his major because of them, and in turn tried his best to grow into an effective tutor, TA, and eventually teacher. When I finally had the opportunity, I tried my best to develop and deliver courses that I and he could be proud of. And now I'm here today to try and iterate the rule one more time to all of you, in the hopes that the final fractal picture will be just as awesome as some of the ones I've shown you today. All of you will go forward and paint your own pictures through your own experiences. And these pictures will be shaped by the rules that you choose to live by. And they may be very different rules than the ones that I have tried to choose. But gosh, there are an infinite number of amazing fractals out there. And I encourage each and every one of you to live each day with the intent of creating the most magnificent picture. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So who did not have Matt because they didn't have to take calculus or just didn't have him? Do you feel kind of sad now? Yeah, I do. Every year I'm always amazed at how our faculty lecturers can take whatever the topic is that is their discipline, their topic, and apply it to life. Because what that tells me is that you are doing what you are supposed to do if you have all turned us into fractal sets, or us into fractals that are about to have these lives and iterations. I'm not sure because I didn't totally understand. Because I have a poli-sci and bio degree, so my math kind of stopped after first year, but I want to make a really nice picture. Yeah, and I hope all of you do too. We have one more lecture this evening. Some of you may be smelling the pizza that's wafting up the smell from downstairs, so you're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. Before I introduce this lecture, I just wanted to give you a small lesson on who you're becoming as you graduate, because you're joining our alumni family. And so alumni is the word for like many alumni, many alums together. That's the plural. Female alumni are alumna, male alumnus. I often just say alum, seems to cover a lot of things. So I just wanted to get that straight so that you know how to refer to yourself as you move forward. This year we have an alumna, and we've actually been working a few years to get her here. She's pretty busy with a lot of things going on. I'm really glad this year we managed to have her with us today. Kim is the Vice President at TD Wealth Management, and she's also the host of Money Talk, which is one of Canada's premier finance shows on the Business News Network. So she's actually conducted over 10,000 live interviews of like prime ministers and economists and financial analysts. So hopefully this crowd's not too intimidating, because it's a little bit different in front of a live camera. So her career has had her working at a variety of different companies, including Frito-Lay and Labatt, which sounds both kind of fun in their own ways, but also in front of a classroom at Dalhousie University. And through all of these roles, Kim's really been working to help us understand money, the markets, and what's happening in the world through those things. But before that, she was a student here at the University of Guelph in a BCom program. And we're really happy that she was able to make it back to campus today. So please welcome this year's alumna lecturer, Kim Parley.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Thank you. Thank you. I just want to start off by saying it's a real honor to be here today. I want to thank you to the administration for the invitation repeatedly, and thank you for being persistent. Thank you to the faculty, and thank you to you for being here, for listening, and congratulations. You are, what, hours away now? Hours away from the last lecture? I remember being in that seat, so close to being done, and you got it all figured out, right? Got the job lined up, got the life plan, got it all ready. Yeah, neither did I. So we'll just, we'll leave it at that. But I will tell you, and again, I'm not sure if this is comforting or not, but when I was sitting in your seat 20 some odd years ago, okay, 26, I'll admit it, I had no flipping clue what I was going to be doing. So it's okay. I wanted to start with some questions that I get as a TV anchor, my show is on Business News Network, also on CTV, and so I just want to get a few of these out of the way because I find I get asked them a lot, so we'll just get them done. So the first one is no, I won't read anything that is in the prompter. Stay classy, Ron Burgundy. Yes, I really have done 12,000 interviews now. There's been more. No, I don't have any hot stock tips on marijuana or Bitcoin, so don't ask. Yes, Warren Buffett is really nice. No, I'm not telling you whether this is my real hair color, how much I weigh, whether I'm married. None of that I'm going to tell you right now. And finally, Amanda Lang and Kevin O'Leary are just like you see on TV. They're actually quite nice people. I was asked today when I came here to think about some of the lessons that I learned at Guelph and lessons that would be useful to someone sitting in your seat. And despite the fact that I have been on TV for a very long time, I think I'm getting up to like 17 years now, which kind of makes me nauseous when I say that. But anyway, you'll see. Trust me, you'll see when you get older. I'm used to talking to a live camera, as you mentioned. I usually have a camera in front of me, and it's great. I usually don't have a live audience in front of me. Not so great, because I get to find out if I'm really funny or not. So we're going to find out in the next little while if I am. So the other thing that came to me when I was getting ready for this is I've never really thought of myself as old. And age is a funny thing. It sneaks up on you. Like, I actually look at you and go, yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm not the same as you. But I still think I'm the same as you. And I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to kind of look to the administration, the faculty there in the room, that I am 47 years old. I will tell you just straight out that this is the youngest age of someone who's ever done this lecture, right? Right? Yeah, no, they're lying. They're so lying. Crushed my soul. But I am old enough to remember that when the bull ring was still a place that used to parade around its studly animals, I remember that. And even before that, it actually showed bulls. The older people in the room got that. See, I know. Okay, that was just for everybody over, I think, 40. Anyway, okay. Let's get on to the lessons then, and a few lessons to think about. Lesson number 1. You are very lucky to be graduating from this school. Guelph is a very special place. It has academic exploration, it has civility, it has community, it has kindness. But as we just heard a moment ago, your relationship with the university changes when you become alum, or alumna in my case. And here's how I kind of think of it. The university is somebody like a nice friend you grew up with. Really nice, really stable, then you kind of lose touch. You kind of go off and you do your own thing. And then you find out they're doing so well, they are so successful, and they want to get back in touch again. And that's what it's like. So, I mean, since I've left this university back in 1992, I actually did a little research, because that's what I do. It really is unimaginable the amount that has happened at this school. You know, when you think about neuroscience and biomedical engineering, I mean, Guelph attracts, and this is a stat, more research money than any other university in Canada without a medical school. And that's an incredible number, and a tribute to the people who helped make that happen. And I know a lot of them are in the front row. You've got the Guelph-Humber joint degrees that have happened. And close to home for me personally, the College of Business and Economics has been established. The beautifully renovated McDonald Hall, all the work done by Dean Julia Christensen Hughes, and also her team, Associate Dean Carrie Godfrey, and everyone that was involved. They've created an incredible facility. So I'm just going to pause and clap for that, because that's a huge thing. And the great thing is in 26 years, one of you is standing up here, a lot more will have happened, and it's pretty incredible stuff. So that's lesson 1. Lesson 2, don't stress if you don't know what you want to do yet. I've been on TV for 17 years. I've covered the markets, as mentioned, again, a lot of interviews, celebrities, CEOs, prime ministers, analysts, economists, senators, covering everything from markets to policy to financial crises. I've talked about it all. I first was a journalist with BNN and CTV. I now am very lucky to work with TD Wealth and TD Bank, and I love it. But it took me 9 years after I graduated from the University of Guelph to figure out my calling. 9 years. I was 30, which seems terribly young to me right now, and ironically, terribly old to you right now. Depends on which side of the fence you are. And there's no way that I would have had any clue that this was what I was going to do when I graduated. I did not even know it was an option for me. When I was sitting where you were, fresh out of my operations management classes, my economic courses taught by Evie Adamate, who I know is here, amazing prof and amazing energy in class, my econometrics, my favorite behavioral economics classes with Bram Cadsby, I did not know what I wanted to do. I did not dabble in journalism at the Ontarian. I was not involved in studio radio or broadcasting. I did not take philosophy. I did not take law. I did not take any of the prerequisites that would have led someone to believe that I would ever become a journalist. I'm not saying that to make me sound like a slacker, although it sounds like I was. But I'm saying that simply because if you know what you want to do, lucky you. Go for it. Have a great time. But if you don't know what you want to do yet, it's also okay. You're not defined yet by decisions you have made, by what you have done or what you have not done yet. Your options are still wide open, so keep that in mind. Lesson 3, when you do figure out what you love, do it. If you remember one thing from this lecture, that is what I want you to remember. Nothing feels better than succeeding at what you love and what you are passionate about. Nothing. It is the highest of highs. Just about 16 years ago, I was getting ready to go on air for the first time at Business News Network, which again, if you don't know, is Canada's CNBC. I'm very popular and well known in the 40-plus set, sometimes not with the 40 under set. I know it's a money thing, you don't have any yet, but someday, you'll know. You'll know. Now, there were a number of steps that I had to go through between when I said graduated Guelph and then 9 years later getting onto that moment. And just a few of the steps, just to give you a flavor, they include things like getting an MBA, taking a class during my MBA about careers that were available to people with MBAs, leaving that class in tears because I didn't want to do anything that was getting me prepared for, working in 2 great companies, losing interest in working at those 2 great companies, telling my parents I was going to leave it all and do a documentary, and hearing my parents have silence on the other end of the phone. A few unpaid internships in media, tapping into the last of my savings, and hundreds upon hours of getting ready for that moment at BNN and getting into the door at BNN. So let's go back to BNN when I was there, again, that moment 9 years ago. I've been working at BNN and had gotten into something called a chase producer. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I chased guests to get them on air. Very glamorous. One day, a reporter was sick. So I was asked to do a reporter hit. And a reporter hit is when an anchor asks you questions, and you being the authority on the subject, you answer the questions on camera, you see it all the time, and that's what I was being asked to do. Now, when you're at BNN, there was 2 ways you could do a hit. You could either do it in studio or at the hammer cam. And I'm going to tell you which of those in. So in studio was actually behind a glass wall. The newsroom was behind you. You went in. It was almost like it was private. You would sit down with the anchor. They would ask you questions. And I know you're broadcasting to tens of thousands of people across the country, but it was a quiet conversation between the 2 of you. And it felt just kind of relaxed and easy. The other option was at the hammer cam, and that was a camera right smack in the middle of the newsroom. So imagine I was right there, actually right here, quite frankly, the newsroom all looking at you. And keep in mind, you're in front of a group of about 100 journalists whose job is to critique everything that they see. So that was the choice I had, and they said, you're going to be on the hammer cam. And I went, yay, that's awesome. So I stood in front of the camera, and there was a few grumpy journalists behind me. I still remember there was an anchor by the name of Brett Harris. The topic was something called hurricane hydrocarbons. And I still remember how he introduced me. He said, now to give us some details on hurricane hydrocarbons, I'd like to introduce our own hurricane, Kim Parley. It's a very generous thing. It might have been the hair. It was a big hair time, too. I'm not quite sure. I don't really remember much else about what happened. I'm sure it was an entirely adequate piece of journalism that came out of my mouth. I'm sure it was factually correct. I'm sure I was probably a bit nervous. I was probably a bit too fast, but I'm sure it was competent. But I remember finishing and feeling like I just conquered Mount Everest. It was the best feeling. And I always get that, just, you know, every time I interview somebody, every time I get to do what I love, it is the best feeling. I always have it. But I want to give you the corollary, say that 5 times, corollary, to lesson 3 about doing what you love. And the idea with that is when you follow what you really want to do, the world will be so happy for you and will support you in doing that. The reason I don't remember much about the hit that I did myself is because as soon as I finished, in a room of 100 cantankerous, competitive journalists, all eyeballing me and watching me, I heard a noise. I heard a single clap, which turned into more claps. And before I knew it, I had a standing ovation of my peers all around me. They were all clapping. I was speechless. And I will tell you, it's a moment I will never, ever forget. Now, for those of you who are thinking, yeah, that's nice for you. You found your passion. You get to do what you want. That's great. I can't turn what I love into a career, so it's, you know, what I love is random, it's weird, it's unconventional, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I want to give you a little bit of perspective. About 5 years ago, I was doing an event with Oprah, #humblebrag. That's where I hang, I'm just saying. And she told the story of one of her school friends who was obsessed, creepily, with popping zits. She liked to pop her own zits. She liked to pop her friends' zits. She liked to pop her family's zits. She liked to pop strangers' zits. It's strange. You're kind of watching the story going, where are you going with this? It's all this person wanted to do. Fast forward a few decades, she has the largest facial spa chain across the United States. She's a multi-millionaire. So if she can turn zit popping into something she loves, I promise you, find what you love and you can follow that too. The final lesson I wanted to give to you is just to be prepared. I prepared a long time for that first 3-minute opportunity. I had 0 broadcast experience when I decided to become a journalist. I had to get a career coach, a broadcast coach, and I did it all on my time and my dime, when I didn't have a lot of dimes to do, as a matter of fact. I also took courses, improv courses. I interviewed broadcasters about how they got to where they were going. I made unreasonable requests of family and friends and unpaid internships, and I had long nights of practicing and learning so I would be ready when the moment actually came. Now, I know compared to what people have to go through in life, it's hardly anything. I know a lot of people have a lot more, and I'm pretty privileged to have come the way that I've come into this, but I was prepared. I'm not a media natural. I did not come from the media world or the political world as many journalists do come from. I do not have deep connections in that world. I earned my way in. I worked hard, but more importantly, I believed in my own abilities, specifically my ability to learn. Because trust me, you soon learn there's a lot you don't know, and all you have is your ability to learn. As I said, it's not complicated. Find what you love. Again, if you do what you love and you work hard, it's kind of fun because you actually love what you're doing, and therefore so it goes back to lesson number 2, and keep that in mind. And I do like to think that I am prepared for what comes my way, but I want to give you a whole other level of preparedness if I could. I was working with Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield, who I think is well known, hashtag another name drop. One of the first events I was working on him with when he just came back from the Canadian Space Station, and I just finished actually working on another event with Roberta Bondar, Canadian astronaut, hashtag she did it again. So I bring this up just because there's how you and I prepare, and then there's how astronauts prepare. Like it's otherworldly in terms of what they do. And he tells this great story in terms of all the stories he had to do to get ready to become a test fighter pilot, to become an astronaut, and he goes on and tells you all these kind of great things. But one of my favorite stories that he told me is one that about guitar playing in Elton John. So apparently he was getting ready to go to an air show where they knew he was coming and Elton John was coming. Elton John, the song Rocket Man, does anyone know that? There you go, okay, good. So Chris Hadfield was like practicing Rocket Man constantly to make sure that when Elton John's on stage and said, "Hey, Commander Hadfield, come on up and get ready to play Rocket Man with me," he was ready. So he talks about the way he practiced, and he practiced in different, in different tunes, and he got it all ready. And he tells you this great story, and he says, "So I was there ready, and he didn't call on me." He didn't call on him. But I think that's so interesting because you got to prepare and get ready for all these things, because when the opportunity does come, you just got to be ready. And you never know where it's going to be, but if you're being prepared, you're not going to have a problem with that. So in the interest of, oh my gosh, I'm so over time. So in the interest of time, I have a few more quick lessons, which I'll do the rapid fire quick ones if I could, and just tell you a few more things I think are important to keep in mind. Number 1, know when to dream and when to be disciplined. You need both to have success, but if you will fail if you confuse when to use them. Number 2, book regular dental hygienist cleaning every 6 months. You're welcome. Number 3, do a Second City improv course. Nothing prepares you for public speaking better than barking like a dog and clucking like a chicken in front of strangers. You'll be ready for anything. Number 4, don't wear things that make you feel fat, ever. Number 5, know the difference between what happened and how it made you feel. They are not the same things. Number 6, get to know the little voice in your head. If you just said, "What voice?" That voice. It makes more decisions about your life than you do. Number 7, thank your parents and tell you love them. I'm going to do that now because I never ever get to see them here. Thank you and I love you. And I'm not going to cry. The tiniest, lesson number 8, the tiniest of changes in your day-to-day actions can lead to an extraordinary shift in your life. Fractals. See? Fractals. He said it already. So celebrate your tiny changes. And my final lesson is never put pineapple on pizza. There's nothing wrong in the world except for that. That's just wrong. So finally, I keep saying finally, and then I have one more thing. You get to do that when you're after your mother. Finally, I do have a confession and I have a request. My confession is that I'm actually quite jealous of you. Your future is so exciting. You have so many great things you're going into. I was kind of just listing a few things. Falcon Heavy, commercial space travel, commercial space tourism. You've got hyperloops and Hyderabad that are getting ready to put out. You've got genome snipping. You have accelerating artificial intelligence. You've optogenetics. You have blockchain. You're going to be actually living in a world where people will be living to 150 years old. There is a lot happening. I was talking to somebody recently about Moore's Law. Does everybody know what Moore's Law is? Everybody knows what Moore's Law is now. Computing just gets better and faster. I'm summarizing. I'm sure many will correct me, but that's what it is. Our rate of acceleration in how computers work is amazing. They're predicting by 2023, you're going to be able to buy a computer for $1,000 that will be the same power as your brain. 2023. They're saying by the year 2050, they're going to have a computer for $1,000 that will be as powerful as the human race. You are embarking into an incredible world. So with that confession that I am jealous of the world you're moving into, here is my request. I have a 7-year-old son named Billy. Can you wave, Billy? You wave to them? Who now knows about fractals, thank you very much. He was quite enthused, so you had him at Booger. When you said Booger, he was there, so 7-year-old boys. Billy is probably, if not the most important, one of the most important things in my life. And I know the world is on a brink of huge fundamental change for all the reasons I just told you right now. And I think we're at a tipping point. I want him to grow up in a world that's amazing and is moving, though, really, really fast. It needs responsible leadership. It needs your leadership. Whatever that looks like, however you choose to express that. So when Billy is sitting where you are, 16 years now, and one of you is up here where I am right now, you're going to be imparting your wisdom to him and explaining to him why the world is the way that it is because you helped shape it with everything that's going on into what it is that day. I think the University of Guelph says it best, so I'll just quote them. Improve life. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like every year we pull together 3 people from 3 different places who share the experience of having students here at the University of Guelph. And somehow they find ways to weave bits and pieces of their stories together, even if they've never met before. And so the idea that being present in the moment, doing small things to have big impact, and doing what you're passionate about. Because there's lots of passion to go around. We're not going to see you for a while because you're going to head downstairs and you'll devour free food one last time. But just as a tip, if you go to convocation, they actually have free food after that as well. And yeah, see, that totally just got a whole section ready to go to convocation. It has been a real privilege to have you here on campus every day and to see some of you on Weingard Walk, in the library, in the events and activities that you've been involved with. And we know that this time of life is bittersweet. In fact, often every year around this time, I say that I think that word was invented for things like this. When you're on the cusp of something that's so exciting and that it's okay to know that you don't know what's happening next, but you're ready. Whether you think you are or not, you are. And that it's okay to be afraid, and it's okay to be unsure, but it's not okay not to come back and visit. Just saying. I mean, you don't have to wait 26 years for it, but we do want to see you back. We're really proud of you. We're excited for you. And we're grateful that you all took some time tonight to come together to celebrate yourselves, because you deserve it. Have a wonderful exam period. It's your last one. And a great summer.